explosion right now. But again, this is at the Sandman Hotel on Throckmorton, 900 block of Throckmorton. And well,
it looks like, well, there's a different vantage point, so we can see that the streets have been blocked off now. Wherever it is that it actually happened, you're right, Karen, usually you look for things like smoke or fire, some kind of debris, something like that. And we're not seeing that, not from this vantage point, but of course, this is something we're keeping a very close eye on. This is developing right now as we speak. We're going to get back to it in just a second, but right now, we do need to talk about the weather.
That's right. We've got a weather alert that's been declared by our team of meteorologists. The rain, it's on its way out, but we are now under a wind advisory.
First Alert meteorologist Aaron Moran standing by right now with a where City Hall sits. So it kind of gives you an idea of where in downtown Fort Worth that is. But again, it looks like there are the sides of walls and windows that have blown out completely. All kinds of debris out there. You can see some insulation is what it looks like to me. And it looks like it spans probably the length of that entire block down there.
Yeah, exactly. That entire stretch of building, the facade, it looks like it's completely blown away in places. And not sure if any of the other buildings surrounding it or adjacent to it were sustained any damage. This is right across the street, by the way, from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. So
you can only imagine. I mean, when we take a look at the pictures here, Karen, when you see that much debris, that much destruction down below, I mean, this must have been a very, very big blast.
Right.
I could just only imagine that entire area was probably, shook by this and shaken by it, because that's not anything small, at least from what we're seeing from the aerial footage. I can tell you that from the ground shot, we did see police officers blocking off sort of all the intersections that lead to this area. And again, they're asking the general public. So folks, again, if you're watching this, if you know anybody who's headed in that area, advise them to please stay away. This is a very active scene. As far as we know, nothing there has been rendered safe yet. An all clear has not been given, and the police are asking people to stay away as much as possible.
And I would have to imagine they're either evacuating people or asking them to hunker down in that area while they figure out what exactly caused the explosion, and if it was natural gas or something to get it turned off. You can still see smoke emitting from the building. Yeah, dust or smoke or something. But we are going to continue to follow this, and we are going to have much more coming up in just a moment.
Well, right now we want to switch gears right now, talk a little bit about the Cowboys.
That's right, right after the break.
We'll be right back. This breaking news coming out of Fort Worth right now, where we have confirmed for you there has been a building explosion that has taken place on the north 900 block of Throckmorton Street. This is in downtown, just north of where City Hall sits.
Right, it's at Houston, 7th Street, Throckmorton on the other side. It's all in that area, and you can see right here the street sign saying it's Houston Street. But Jeff Ray pointed out to us, because he actually had a better vantage point than we did for a while. On the north side, you can see some firefighters here. We saw them bring in chainsaws. They're going to getting ready to cut into something, but also there are chunks of concrete from the sidewalk. This is like what you can see at the top of the picture, a little further up. I don't know if we can get our chopper to pan up a little bit.
We're gonna stay on this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Karen, but I think what we're trying to do here is if we can get the chopper to pan up just a little bit, because we want to show you something, folks. What Karen was alluding to, something that Jeff Ray saw that gives us an idea of perhaps not only just the strength of this explosion, but also possibly the origin. There's a giant sort of a hole in the sidewalk, possibly indicating that whatever exploded would have happened underneath it, because it's just missing. It's just a cavernous hole.
It is, and you can see giant, like slabs of concrete that it would seem that the explosion forced it onto. See, here we go, a little bit to the top of the screen, top of the screen. Chunks of concrete that you can see right there at the very top, lifted from the sidewalk and actually moved over into the street, and
that could be an indicator. That could be. We see Jason Allen, by the way. He's miking up. We're going to check with him in a bit, just as soon as he's ready. But you can see there. I mean, when you think about how heavy concrete is in entire sections of a sidewalk, this really gives you an idea of how strong this blast was. We know that 10 people right now, at least 10 people, are being treated right now. The extent of their injuries, we don't know, but it is being classified as a mass casualty event.
Right. Now, this has happened within the last hour, and we understand we got crews on the scene right away. We got our chopper in the air, and you know, our chopper was over the scene just at about 4 o'clock when we began our newscast. But it probably happened around 3:20, 3:30.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's when we started getting wind of what was going on there. I don't see, at least from this shot, I don't see rescue efforts possibly indicating that maybe people are trapped below. We're hoping that that's not the case. That at this point they're trying to figure other things out. We don't know for certain exactly what happened. At this point, you know, we're waiting to have official confirmation from authorities. But we do know, again, where this is happening. You can see from the kind of debris and the kind of damage that is left behind, not only just the strength of the blast itself, but the size of it as well. You know, it looks to take up the entire side of that block right off of Houston Street and Throckmorton. I'm not really sure what those firefighters are doing. It looks like they're cutting into
something,
some windows. Not sure what that's about, but again,
it's like that's the facade of the building. This is like the face of the building that was blown out.
Right.
And why they're cutting it into and concentrating on that, I'm not quite sure at this point. But you can see firefighters really all over the scene, probably going at this point, you know, room to room, just to make sure that everyone is accounted for. And as you mentioned, that no one is trapped. And
I mean,
for the rescuing.
I can't imagine that. I mean, it's 4:20 right now. If this happened in the 3 o'clock hour, I can't imagine that they're done with that part of this response. I'm sure they're still trying to figure out if there are any more injuries. This is very, very early on, obviously, and you can see some investigators down below also taking some photos of the site there. I know we have Jason Allen. Jason, if you can hear me, this is Ken and Karen. We are live right now, so want to toss it out to you. What are you seeing? Obviously, we're getting the chopper views, but what do we know about what's going on from the ground from where you are?
So we're at 9th and I'm checking 9th and Houston right now. So we're just about a block or so south of the blast site, and I'll let Mike kind of go in so you can get a view and get a look from the ground. I know that you guys have been watching some of that video from the chopper, so you maybe have a better view really than even we do on the ground of just kind of the expanse of this. I can tell you that this whole area of downtown is all blocked off for several blocks to the north of the blast, and then at least down here, maybe another block, it looks like south of us. So probably all the way down to 10th or 11th Street that's blocked off, and then for a couple blocks of either side. So a pretty good portion of the downtown. You got to walk in here from a few blocks away. I can tell you as we were walking up, there were pieces of debris that you could see on the sidewalk, a lot of insulation, things that could be blown around in the winds. You know how it is when you get here to downtown and the wind just kind of swirls in and out of the building. So a lot of the debris blown through to the east side of downtown. And I know you were saying this came in as a possible natural gas explosion. It was very evident even when we first got in here to the downtown area. You could smell that pungent smell of natural gas in the air, at least to the east side, the direction the wind is blowing. So I know you've been talking about them cutting and working and probably looking to probably shore up some of these portions of the building that have been heavily damaged. But there is still, at least from what we could smell here when we got here, definitely some natural gas maybe still hanging in the air. As much as the people here in downtown, there isn't a huge amount of people here. It's about maybe normal what you'd expect for this time of the day downtown. There are some people who are leaving work. There are a lot of people who are down here and just kind of standing around and trying to get a sense of what happened and what was going on. It's very calm. There isn't a big rush of activity. Nobody seems really panicked. I think there is still some concern, not entirely knowing what happened as far as the safety, and so that's why you have this big, wide section of downtown that is blocked off right now. But hang on, I'll back you off just a second, Mike. There's still a lot of police and firefighters that are moving in and out of the area right now, all around this entire scene. But again, getting back to the people that are down here, they're kind of standing around and they're taking pictures, and everybody seems pretty calm with everything right now. But this has absolutely impacted a major section here, the central part of downtown Ken and Karen. It looks like just from the size of the blast and the amount of debris, it's probably going to impact things down here for probably some time to come.
Yeah, this is something that obviously, thankfully, we don't see very often in downtown Fort Worth. This actually reminds me of March of 2000 when we had the tornado that came through and damaged so many buildings there in downtown. And it does. It has. They're going to be cordoning off sections of the downtown area to keep people away so they can clean this up and get to the root of what happened here.
I want to sort of draw your attention back, because we have now it's now sort of center screen now, that hole that you see the sidewalk. This is what actually Jeff Ray came out and pointed out to us, because we couldn't see this the first time we took the shot. But I mean, look at that. That's huge. That's massive. And look at the side of the building there. Every window is blown out. And if you know anything about the construction of these buildings, you know this is heavy material that they have down there. It's heavy concrete, heavy steel. So that right there is, to me at least, obviously a clear indicator that this was something that was very, very strong and could have possibly come from the bottom up.
Yeah, Jeff was just telling us that those concrete slabs,
yeah,
you can envision this, 10 feet by 10 feet by 4 inches, and that they each weighs about 4,400 pounds.
That's a lot.
And, it was Jeff's, of course, this is all supposition at this point, but it was Jeff's theory that perhaps because that part of the sidewalk did blow off, that maybe that was the origination, the origin of the explosion, was underneath the ground.
We know the call came in as a possible gas explosion. Jason Allen is saying he's standing just down the street from this and he could smell the gas in the air. So at this point, it looks like those indicators are in fact checking out. Of course, we have to wait on official confirmation from fire authorities and from the officials down there to let us know what's going on. But I could only imagine that they're also trying to figure out and pinpoint those exact details.
It does look like the damage is limited to maybe the first 3 stories of the building. From what I can see, from the angle that I can see, it doesn't look like there's any damage in the floors above that. But certainly they would want to evacuate anybody in the rest of the hotel just to get it cleared and
And originally,
everybody safe.
One of the things I was curious to see was if any sort of search and rescue efforts were going on. It doesn't seem like it at this point, so that's probably a good sign that.
And there's an Atmos worker. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Those guys in the yellow are Atmos workers.
Yes, the yellow jackets.
Yes.
Right. Going back to the initial number that we received from MedStar, the 10 people hurt. Hopefully that there aren't any more.
Well, let's go back out to our Jason Allen. Jason, I understand you've got some new information for us.
Yeah, so we just got some updated information from the newsroom. You guys were just talking about the number of injuries, initially at 10, so that's gone up to 11 right now. So we're hearing 11 total injuries. One of those is critical injuries. Two of those people, we're told, at least initially here, are in serious condition. So 11 total, one critical, two serious. And of course, this information changing fairly quickly still as we figure out everything that happened. Again, you guys were talking about just the extent of the damage, and I haven't been up there close to it, so I can't see it and get that view. You can from the chopper, but it is extensive. You have that restaurant that's down there. You got businesses on either sides. And again, this happening in the middle of the afternoon, although the downtown area isn't maybe as heavily, densely packed with people at that time in the afternoon, you still do have people who are walking around on the sidewalks. They're going from business to business. They're just coming into downtown. Yeah. So we don't know yet if these are people necessarily inside the building, eating in a restaurant, in an office, or if these potentially could have been people just walking or even driving past where this happened.
As I mentioned, just on the other side of Throckmorton is the Social Security Administration building. It's the federal building is there. The Forward Star Telegram is there. And so this is very close to where a lot of people work and some people live.
And Jason, I know you can't see it, but just playing, relaying the message here, just so you get an idea of what we're looking at right now from the chopper. It looks like there's 3 firefighters that are down on the ground. It looks like I've counted 3 that are sort of going in and out of the debris, and some what's left now, what I can only describe as holes where windows, maybe doors used to be. It seemed like they're going in and out. Not really sure exactly what they're doing, but maybe if you hear about something or you get alerted to that. That's what we're seeing on the actual scene. Is 3 firefighters that are going through the debris right now. They seem to be canvassing for something, maybe checking to see if there's any other gas exposures or something, or maybe some other exposures, Jason. So just to give you a heads up of what we're seeing from our end.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll ask about that, Ken. I know that I saw some of the communications folks from the fire department who are here on scene, police department as well, and they were headed just around the corner from us. And you were talking, Karen, about some of the buildings that are down here. Again, just to give you a sense of where we are, if you're not familiar with it, or maybe you know downtown just a little bit. From where I'm standing, so here's the blast scene just back here. I can see City Hall about an equal amount of distance in that direction. So City Hall is right there. The city municipal courthouse is right next to it. And then you have the convention center, which is just, a stone's throw away from me on the other side. In fact, Mike's going to twist around just so you can kind of see where the convention center is. And then Mike as well, if you want to just see some of the people who are down here, just kind of on the corner, walking around and checking it out. Again, as I mentioned, we're at a point in this, an hour or more into it, where there's not a whole lot of, frantic activity maybe that we probably had in the initial moments after this happened, but people just interested in what's going on. Mike, can you go back down here and go back to down the sidewalk? And Ken, I know you're talking about firefighters going in and out, but there are a large amount of them there that are right there on the sidewalk. I'm not sure, because I was focused in the other direction, if those were firefighters who were inside the building and who have come out, or if they're about to go in. But I just wanted to be able to give you that shot just so you can get another look, and then they go back in the building. So just another look there at what's happening on the ground right at the point where the blast happened.
Yeah, and we know, Jason, this is something that is developing as we speak. Whatever plans or whatever efforts are being coordinated, this is all happening right now, real time. Also happening real time, we should let you know we just received information. Jason, also something for you to know out there on the field, on the ground. A family reunification center has already been set up. So it's 4:30 right now, and that center is it's going to be located at Sundance Square. So for folks who are worried about loved ones, for folks who are worried about friends, or are looking to make contact with folks, the Family Reunification Center, once again, that has been set up at Sundance Square, and we understand that is happening right now.
Right.
As we continue to take these pictures for you, but again,
and we're seeing other folks. I'm sorry, showing up. Not just firefighters anymore. We mentioned the Atmos energy workers also at the scene, but these men over here climbing over the rubble. It's not close enough to read what's on their backs, but
I can't tell
which organization, which agency they might be with.
But
they're taking. I'm so sorry. At the top of your screen, you'll see they're taking pictures of that giant gaping hole where a sidewalk used to be, And again, you take if you can imagine the force of the explosion that could take a 4,400 pound slab, and that's just one slab.
That's just one, right? Exactly, right.
Okay, 10 foot by 10 foot. Yeah.
By the way, it looks like those are Fort Worth police officers that are down there. But again, I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. When we have these numbers in front of us, when we talk about a 10 by 10 slab, 4,400 pounds, 4,400 pounds, just one of them. And you can see many of them have been blown out.
Exactly.
Several of them have been blown out.
And that certainly seems to be a point of interest for the officers.
Some steel beams also
those
that are exposed now.
And then Jeff was saying, that's where a lot of the utilities are housed down there,
down below.
Right.
So, and again, it makes sense. The call came in initially as a possible gas explosion. Jason Allen reporting he's smelling the gas down there. We're seeing the Atmos crews there on the ground. And when you take a look at this damage, it seems all but certain that this was in fact related to some sort of a gas explosion.
And again, this is being considered.
Christina, can you hear me?
This is being called a mass casualty event. We do have 11 injured that we know of so far. One of them critical, 2 of them serious, and the rest, we're told, are minor injuries.
Yeah, folks, if you're just joining us right now at 4:32, the call came in sometime in the 3 o'clock hour for a gas explosion. We know now that there's certainly some kind of explosion did in fact take place there. We heard initially that there were as many as 10 people that are hurt. Our Jason Allen, who's on the scene, just confirmed for us that it is in fact 11 injuries. One of them is in critical condition, at least 2 others in serious condition. And again, a family reunification center has already been set up over at Sundance Square in case there's anybody who's trying to make contact with a loved one or friend, someone who they have not been able to make contact with, and perhaps they believe that we're supposed to be in this area or are supposed to be in this area. So that's certainly going on while crews down below, as we can see here from the chopper, continue to kind of scour through the area and try and figure out what exactly happened here. But whatever it was, certainly severe and just a devastating, sort of explosion there when you take a look at those windows.
Right, and for some reason that seems to be a point of interest, not only for the firefighters earlier, but for the Atmos crews now. And I'm trying to figure out why that would be, because it seems like it's just part of the front, the facade of the building that was blown out. But they were going at it with the chainsaws earlier and digging into it and trying to pry things from it. So it is curious. But yeah, again, this is the 900 block of Houston Street. Throckmorton is on the other side. So Houston and 7th. And this is the Sandman Hotel. And again, as we were mentioning earlier, the damage appears to be concentrated on the bottom 3 floors of this tall, very, I don't want to call it a skyscraper, but certainly a multi-story building. And also what's underneath the building seems to have sustained some damage.
Right, and typically, you look for, in explosions like this, you look for damage and stuff in the higher floors. You look for cracked out or blown out windows. That seems to be sort of a signature of damage caused by an explosion. You don't really see that here, as you mentioned, Karen. Once you get to about 3 or 4 stories up, everything seems to be intact. So what we're looking at seems to be debris and damage, devastating damage, but at the very bottom of this building.
And it makes you wonder. I imagine our chopper was flying around earlier, and we were actually looking for the building, looking for the damage earlier. And it does seem to be concentrated in this area, and not necessarily on all sides of the building.
I know, if you're familiar with the architecture of the buildings in downtown Fort Worth in this area, you know that these are, older buildings. They're not new. You know a little bit about the materials that are being used to build them. And these are, mostly concrete, cement, a lot of steel type buildings from that were built and designed way back in the day. And it's just when you see this kind of damage, again, it's sort of an indicator of just how strong the blast was. And it looks like it's at least the lower part of that block, all of that side of it has been affected by this. It doesn't seem like there is any part of that face of the building that's been unscathed. I mean, it looks like everything from windows to doors to parts of the facade there. You have concrete, other kinds of slabs, maybe even marble. I know that a lot of these buildings have marble built into them. Looks like it's all just kind of blown onto the ground there, and I can only imagine what this would have been like if some folks were down there maybe having lunch, God forbid, just walking by, which is obviously a big possibility.
Right.
Jason Allen talked about that. You know, obviously those are not details that we know at this hour, but these are all possibilities of when you think about a Monday afternoon, downtown Fort Worth, sometime after 3 o'clock, and you see all of this. You know that typically those are the kinds of activities that are going on.
Right, and I've been told, Christina, can you repeat what you told me earlier, that the Tarrant, she told me for the rest of the day, we've got several government offices that are going to be closed for the rest of the day, and it's understandable. It's already 4:30. The business day would be ending in about a half hour anyway.
Right,
but
sure.
certainly, and it is so close, as Jason was telling us earlier. The federal building is right across the street. The Social Security Administration, also City Hall, municipal buildings, they're all right in that general area.
On one of the shots that we took, I even saw law enforcement on there with the HSI jackets, which stands for Homeland Security Investigations. That's because they're all down there. We're going to break away from the chopper shot here in a bit and give you some recorded shots. We're going to break away from the live shot, that is. Of course, the chopper needs to step away for a second.
So this is what we were looking at earlier. This is some of the chopper video that we have from earlier where the firefighters, we could see them at the scene,
kind of combing through the debris.
Exactly, yeah.
The other thing I was just going to tell you, though, again, you talk about all the agencies that are involved here now. They're all kind of housed in that general area down there. When you talk about federal buildings, federal authorities, federal offices for law enforcement,
they're all in that area.
Possibly even the ATF. I'm going to assume that they're down there. So these are all folks that are assisting now with Fort Worth Fire and as well as MedStar. Again, we know that 11 people now. So initially, when we first came on the air with this breaking news, we were told that 10 people had been hurt. That number has gone up by 1 to 11 now. And our Jason Allen from the ground reporting that one of those victims is in critical condition, at least 2 others in serious condition. The rest of them, we do not know at this hour. We are, of course, working to get those details for you. At some point, we're going to try and see if perhaps we can speak to MedStar over the phone here as we continue our live coverage of this and maybe get a live update from them for you. Here.
Yeah, I was just looking through the internet trying to get a little bit more information on the Sandman Hotel, because this is not one of the hotels I've happened to stay at in the past, but the building is circa 1920. So,
and that goes back to what I was saying.
Exactly.
If you know anything about, construction architecture of that time period, these buildings were made to last a lifetime. That's how they built things back then.
Right.
We know that Fort Worth, one of the gems of the city is this kind of architecture.
Absolutely.
There's so many of these buildings. They're treasured buildings. Treasured architecture, and again, I mean, these things are not built lightly. Right. So again, I say that to once again make the point that when you see that kind of debris, Karen, that's a real indicator of the severity of what we're talking about.
The force of the explosion, certainly. Let's go back out to our Jason Allen, who's there at the scene, see what else you might have discovered, Jason, since we last talked.
So a few things to bring up right now, Ken and Karen. One, we just kind of moved a little bit to give you a little bit of a different shot. Mike was just pointing out here on the street corner. So this is kind of catty corner from the building that blew up. And you can see broken glass here on some of the businesses that are across the street. So that kind of goes back to what I was telling you, where there were sides of debris that had either blown or flown even a couple blocks away when we were coming up. Second, can kind of still right now, when the wind blows the right way, get a hint of that smell of natural gas that's in the air. It's not strong, but from time to time, that's kind of still blowing through the wind. And then also, over just a few minutes ago, saw a gentleman walking. He did not want to go on camera to tell this story, but he's nice enough to talk with me for just a minute. And he had this triage tag that was hanging around his neck. So this is one of the tags that firefighters put on somebody when they're here, decide if they are in need of immediate assistance or maybe they're okay to walk away. Now his thankfully was marked green, but I could tell he had his shirt torn, he had blood on his shirt, he had blood in his ear, and he was sort of dazed. He told me that he was looking for the rest of his team, his friends. He thought they were here somewhere and they were okay, but he didn't know where they were. He said he was in the second floor of the building. He was in a meeting when the explosion happened. He said there was a smell of natural gas before the explosion. He remembered asking one of his teammates, do you smell natural gas? Yeah, it wasn't strong though. They smelled it. And then, boom, they said it came from beneath them. Whole second floor filled with dust, smoke. They could see the red exit signs. So he headed for the red exit, found the stairwell, got to the stairwell, and most of it was missing. So he said he and the people that he was with had to then jump down, he said probably 5 or 6 feet from the stairwell, and they were able to make their way out of the building. He was okay. Like I said, the blood, he said most of the blood that was on him was from other people who were injured, although he clearly had some injuries he wasn't aware of. But he was okay, but that was gives you a little bit more of an insight to maybe what happened from somebody who was there in the building. Again, that initial sense that there was a smell of gas, but I think we've all been in places before where you smell gas and maybe you don't think anything of it right away, and then the explosion, and then that effort to go get out of that building. The one thing he left me with, he said, I don't ever want to experience anything like that again. And then he went off to go try to find the rest of his team. So there's just one story from somebody who experienced that and was up there in the second floor of that building when this explosion happened this afternoon.
Wow, that's incredible.
And obviously a very traumatizing experience for that gentleman. I just hope that all his friends and everybody's doing okay, or as good as they can be considering the circumstances. Jason Allen, thank you very much for that live report. Of course, we're going to...
Taking a look, I mean, just look at the hotel right there, the second floor. I mean, this is where so much of the damage happened. Don't know exactly where he was in the building when the explosion happened, but certainly enough, as Jason described, for them to, you know, the dust, you know, to feel that explosion, and for the room to become covered in debris and dust, and as he described, trying to get out the exit, and then to find that some of the stairwell, a big chunk of the stairwell, is missing. Incredible.
When you think about, again, you know, if you're familiar with this area, you walk through these streets, you kind of get an idea of how close these buildings are to one another, the parking structures that are nearby, and sort of the kind of activity that could have been going on. And to me, when I think of that, and you see just how devastating something like this can be, I mean, that part right there is extremely terrifying, where you're just going about your business. You know, the call came in sometime after 3 o'clock, so presumably folks thought, you know, the day Monday was winding down, and now you have something like this. You got 11 people hurt, at least 1 critical, 2 serious, and again, hopefully, we are keeping our fingers crossed. We are hoping, we are praying that number does not go up. But of course, you know, we're going to get that official number from MedStar, more than likely, or from the fire department. But we do know, folks, once again, that a family reunification center has been set up over at Sundance Square. So that if you're not totally familiar with the area, Sundance Square isn't terribly far from this site either. There's a tweet from...
these are some of the tweets we're going to show you that have been coming in. So an update within the last 20 minutes, again, about the Family Reunification Center that's been set up, as you were just mentioning. So 420 Main Street, to make it easier, because it can be kind of a big area. So,
and again, so the area here, not too far from City Hall, and not too far from Sundance Square. This is all sort of isolated in that area. This is information just coming out from Tarrant County. All Tarrant County offices in downtown are closed. Understandable. We kind of get that. And this is what Fort Worth. I saw this tweet not sort of at the very beginning of this. When we knew that something really serious was going on, tagged as a major incident from the Fort Worth Police Department, asking people to stay out of the area. Please avoid the downtown area, they say, in the middle of that.
And I would expect that to hold for, I would say, at least a day or so.
Oh,
I mean, it's going to take a while for them to get this cleaned up.
Right. So they've got, you know, first and foremost, they have to be sure that they are clear from any kind of search and rescue operations. At that point, that shifts into, you know, investigations and cleanups and that sort of thing. Right. So this is not anything that is going to be resolved anytime soon.
Right.
We know that for sure. This is another tweet that came out from Fort Worth Fire Department.
Well, basically, it's kind of a repetition of what we've been saying. To stay out of the area. Major incident. They are describing it as a mass casualty event. As Ken mentioned, we know that 11 people have been injured, 1 of them critically, 2 of them in serious condition, and the others, perhaps the man that he described wearing the triage, you know, with the green, as minor injuries. But again, blood in the ear and dazed, and even minor injuries can be.
Right, and you talk about that's when when the term that we've oftentimes heard as it pertains to events like this of the walking wounded, meaning people who maybe didn't go to an ambulance, or people who weren't transferred to a hospital, who didn't receive immediate care, but are hurt in some way. And maybe the gentleman that Jason Allen was speaking about is one of them. I mean, that number right now we wouldn't know. Those are figures and stats that come out later. But what we do know right now, confirmed, is that 11 people have been injured as a result of this. These are chopper images, by the way. We were taking them live for you at the beginning of the hour. The helicopter had to break away for a second, so we're just giving you, just so that you know here, these are some recorded images from earlier today. But again, I mean, these are images that it's kind of hard to look away. You know, we're going to be looking at this for some time now. Investigators are going to be looking at this for some time to try and determine exactly what happened and the scope of this event at this point.
So we're being told, our producer is telling us right now, that they're moving our Jason Allen right now because that gas leak is still active. They've not yet resolved it. So they are expanding the area that they're closing there in that part of downtown.
Okay,
on the edge of Sundance Square.
So that's interesting, because Jason was telling us just a little bit ago that he can still smell it in the air.
And there's a reason.
And if we know it's a windy day out there. Okay, so we know that if the winds are carrying it, that it's probably widespread at this point. And you know, if this happened again in the 3 o'clock hour, it's not even 5 o'clock yet. I mean, it makes perfect sense that this isn't something that has been capped.
And this is something we saw some Atmos workers out there earlier. They may not actually have been able to pinpoint yet exactly the source of the leak, where the leak is coming from. Obviously, this would be the place to start, but exactly where in there that leak might be, the fact that they have not yet resolved it, have not yet been able to put a stop to it.
Makes you wonder also, though, you know, how wide the leak is, and if it came from some kind of a pipe, you know, just the diameter of that, because, you know, a small pinhole leak, you know, I don't think would cause the kind of damage that you see here, or that you would smell the gas still in the air several blocks away from it where Jason Allen was standing, and that, you know, almost 2 hours into this event, that we're still talking about an active gas leak. But we are talking about an active gas leak.
Yeah, so they are expanding the perimeter, if you will, just to keep people further back. So they are moving our Jason Allen, and I would imagine, you know, anybody else who happens to be in this vicinity. But I would imagine, again, so they are no doubt evacuating then. I mentioned maybe they were telling people to hunker down, but if it is still active, then they are most certainly evacuating that area.
So, you know, you talk about the different things that are happening all at the same time, obviously the response to this, but now the evacuations that, you know, that are more than likely taking place, or just trying to get anybody in that area just away from it, gives you, again, just another perspective into just how widespread and how massive something like this is. You know, it is being called a mass casualty, but that usually means a lot more to first responders than it does to the average Joe who's out there. You know, mass casualty, obviously talking about how many people are hurt, how many injuries that you have, but it also means that you have the potential of something like this becoming worse and affecting a lot more people until it is finally controlled. And at this point, you know, we are not hearing that it is controlled. We are not hearing that an all clear has been given. We are not hearing that the number of injuries has stopped going up.
It is a little surprising that, because we've been on the air now for the last 50 minutes, and it's surprising that I'm not going to try to second guess anyone, but I'm just curious as to why now, if they've only just realized that it's not yet contained, that they don't have the problem resolved, or you know, why it took this long to determine, you know what, we need to push back the perimeter. And
who knows? I mean, maybe it's something that they will get a handle on pretty soon here. Maybe it's something that is just out of you know, an abundance of caution. But either way, you know, Jason, who was only a couple blocks away from this, as we're just being told from our producers, that him and his crew, him and his photographer, have been asked to fall back. So essentially, this perimeter is expanding, and that makes, again, also, you know, initially we saw so many Fort Worth police officers down there on the ground that, you know, that makes sense. They're trying to control that area, control access in and out of it, because clearly there's still a danger that is very present down there.
Yeah, so there's a restaurant there on the ground floor of that Sandman Hotel. And as Jason was telling us earlier, the man that he happened to run into on the street wearing the triage, what do they call it, a necklace, but to alert others that this is somebody who has been injured, but he's not terribly injured. But he said he was in the second floor at a meeting with some of his work colleagues, and when they smelled natural gas, and the explosion happened just moments later. It's really just incredible hearing that those stories, and you know there are going to be more of them coming out just like this, because he said that they had to jump 5 or 6 feet to the ground because there were no stairs.
Just to get out of there, yeah.
The stairs were gone.
We do want to let you know, folks, we've got an extra piece of information that just came in. This is in regards to the Family Reunification Center. We know that authorities have set that up over at Sundance Square. I want to give you the exact address because this is at Sundance Square, but it's at a parking lot right near Sundance Square. So the exact address here is 200 5th Street. Once again, 200 5th Street. It is a parking lot right next to Sundance Square, and that is where the Family Reunification Center has been set up. So again, the authorities were asking if there's anyone that's looking for a loved one, anyone that is missing someone, they're asking you, stay clear of this area at all costs. Do not go there. Those reunifications are going to be taking place over at Sundance Square. And again, one more time, just for redundancy here, in case you missed it, 200 5th Street.
That's right. Yeah, and which is interesting because it was at, I believe it was 420 Houston, which is probably a little too close.
And that probably has a lot to do with the fact that the perimeter is being expanded, and it's sort of stretching back, and people are falling back. So again, all indicators right now are that this is still very much an active response. That crews and that officials are still very, very, very early on in all of this. And the obvious factor of that, at least to me right now, is that we're getting word that the perimeter is being expanded, that people are being asked to evacuate certain areas, even if they're standing outside, like our Jason Allen was on the corner giving us our live reports. You know, they were asked to fall back because of that, the potential, the danger that there's still an active gas leak happening down there. So again, we are showing you some images, folks. These are the images that came in from our chopper that was above the scene just a little bit ago. These are pre-recorded, but again, this is what is left of that side of the facade of that building down there on the intersection. Again, Houston and Throckmorton. Right.
And so this happened probably just over an hour ago. Maybe I'd say maybe an hour and a half ago, and it certainly. You know, talk about, I mean, just stopping everyone in their tracks. I mean, this is something, fortunately, that we don't see often. And, you know, a lot of people work, a lot of people live in this part of Fort Worth. And, you know, I imagine it's just, it's just startling.
You know, I want to, because one of the things, and you brought this up,
Okay, I'm sorry, we've got a media briefing. We're being told, let's get started.
Let's listen.
So you're good? You're good? Good, good, good. Michael, you ready? Good? All right, it's on you.
So, folks, this is a live look right now. This is the first media briefing that is taking place. It is about to start. We're going to stay on this because as soon as they start talking, I'm going to stop, and we're going to take this live for you. But this is the fire department and officials. Looks like police department, as well as maybe the gas company, one of the Atmos as well. So they're getting ready to talk to us here in just a second here. Right now you can see that is Officer Buddy Calzada. He is addressing the media members that have gathered down there. Our Jason Allen, our photographer Mike Kinney's down there as well. And we can see that looks like they're getting their notes together, but they're going to be addressing the public and the media here any second. So as soon as they start doing that, again, we're going to stop talking and we're just going to listen in. So at this point, any moment now, but not just yet. Looks like the fire official there is taking some final notes there, and they're going to be talking to us shortly here.
Okay, everybody good?
There we go.
So thank y'all for coming today. I know there's a lot of things that are going on, and we're trying to get this information out to put some of the questions at ease that are going on out there in social media. At approximately 3:32 today, our alarm office received a structure fire call at the area of 810 Houston Street at the Sandman Hotel here in downtown Fort Worth. Quickly after that, we got multiple calls that were coming in that there was a type of explosion. And I want to make sure that when I say explosion, we've got a lot of things that are going on social media right now that are getting a lot of people concerned. There is a smell of gas in the area, and there were windows and things that were blown outside of the structure. So right now, through our investigation, it looks like it is more of some type of gas leak. We have not confirmed that yet at this time, but I do want to make sure that everybody knows there's a smell of gas here in downtown. We're not sure if the smell of gas was caused from the explosion of the fire itself, or if that's what caused the explosion. But that's what we're looking at right now at this point in time. Within that, we did change this to also what we call a mass casualty incident, meaning we've got multiple patients. We have the ambulance down here. We've got our MCI trailers down here just to make sure that we can take care of, depending on how many patients we do have at this time. I'm being told we've got 11 patients that have been transported to local hospitals at this point in time. The incident itself has went to a second alarm. And we do have Arlington backing up here in downtown just for an added resource if need be. We've got a family assistance center for those that are trying to figure out if they've got loved ones that were involved in this case. It is set up at lot 15 at the Sundance Square parking lot at 200 5th Street. Again, that family assistance center is set up at 200 5th Street here in downtown at the Sundance Square parking lot. And we also have our emergency office set up and ready to go to help out with resources that need be. I'll open up for a few questions at this point in time.
Can you confirm any part we heard talks on the radio about partial collapse? The interior?
I can't confirm any of that at this point in time.
Do you know what part of the hotel it started in? Was it the restaurant?
We were getting reports that it had started in the restaurant. We do know that there was some construction that was being done down at the restaurant, but we're not 100% sure that that's where it actually started at this point in time.
Do you know if the 11 people injured were from the hotel, from inside the hotel?
We don't have that information at this time.
What do you know about the extent of any injuries?
You want to talk about the injuries?
Sure. So we've actually assessed 11 patients so far. 1 was critical. 2 had serious injuries. The rest had minor injuries. 9 of those patients so far have been transported to area hospitals. We've had a total of 9 ambulances, and as Craig said, our ambulance is here as well.
There's a couple of years ago, there was a leak in the same area. Do you think this is possibly the age of downtown, the pipes and everything could have possibly led to something like this?
We don't have any confirmation or any intuition on that part right now.
Is there any, do you believe y'all have everybody out of the building?
We are still doing searches throughout the building. At this point in time, I can't tell you that we have done a complete search. It's a multi-story structure, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you accurate information as we go through that. But I can tell you that we are doing a search and rescue throughout the entire building at this time.
And are there any concerns about structural integrity at this point?
At this point in time, our people are going in there trying to make sure that we've got everybody out, and then we'll talk about the structural integrity, after that. But we're just trying to make sure that when we walk out of that building, we can definitively say that we've got everybody removed from that structure.
How many block radius was evacuated after the original site?
I'm not sure at that time as far as the radius evacuated.
Do you know how long the area is going to be evacuated for?
I can't give you a time on that. I can say it's going to be quite some time that we've got some stuff shut down until we can do our preliminary investigation and give you some more answers to those questions in the future. We are going to try to provide an update around every 15 minutes, even if it's just we don't have anything further at this point in time, but to try to keep you updated with the best information that we have as quickly as possible.
Is that on scene, and what is their role?
Atmos is on scene right now. They are trying to help us with turning off different gas and stuff throughout the building and the surrounding area.
Keep in mind also the fire department has their media portal, So a lot of the info is going to come either their social media or the media portal on the FD side.
So we're not going to be doing 15 minutes every 15 minutes here at this spot?
Well, until, as far as right now goes, we will, just to have everybody together in one place. And then from there, if it gets to the point to where it's going to be drug out further, we'll make that determination and let everybody know the locations and stuff at that point in time.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Craig Trojic, C-R-A-I-G. Last name is T-R-O-J-A-C-E-K. And I'm the Public Information Officer for the Fort Worth Fire Department.
Buddy, there's a lot of police response down here. Can you explain why we see so many police down here?
Sure. One of the biggest things on the police presence is to set the perimeter. We want to allow Fort Worth Fire to go in there and not just see what the issue is, but make sure we save everybody and we get everybody accounted for. In order to do that, everybody wants to come to the scene and see what's going on. So police have been out here shutting off numerous blocks. We did about a 2-block radius immediately, and as we see the need, we're going to shift those or move those around. So I can't tell you exactly where we are, but we're at least a 2-block radius, and that'll move as necessary. We again ask everybody that's listening and watching, please watch from your televisions. We're trying to keep this area just as safe as we possibly can.
We see Air One circling and have been for a little bit. Is that to kind of help keep the airspace closed just in case something happens?
When something happens in the heart of Fort Worth, we ask assistance from every unit and everybody. So you'll see different units that may not belong, like a gang unit. They're here to help. These are our citizens. These are our partners. And we want to bring every resource that we have to help them. Anybody else?
Is there some concern that people are still missing? I'm sorry.
As far as missing, Craig I'll let Craig answer that. They're asking if anybody's still missing.
So the last I'd heard, like I said, we were still doing a search of the building. At that point in time, we did talk to the hotel owner, and he sounded like there was one person that had still was looking to be accounted for. I'm not sure. That's been a little bit ago. I'm not sure. We'll have a better answer for that at our next update. But the last I heard, we still had one person that was unaccounted for at this time. I'm not sure at this time.
Were all the injured inside the hotel what happened, or any on the street?
I don't have the answer to that question right now either. I'm sorry.
How many injured?
11. We have 11 patients total.
11 patients, 9 transport.
Oh, sorry.
9 transport.
I'll take it, Craig.
You said one critical, how many serious?
1 critical, 2 serious, the rest minor injuries.
And the 2 that didn't go to the hospital are just addressed on scene?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So what we'll do is we'll give our Spanish media partners an opportunity to get some sound as well. During that time frame, we're going to go back and try to gather some more information. If there's any updates we can provide you with, we'll definitely give those. But we'll go ahead and take a break for now for our Spanish media partners to get the word out. Thank you, guys.
You've just been listening to the live update from fire and police officials on the ground in downtown Fort Worth, where we just got an update on that structure fire call that we now know came in at about 3:32. It was some type of explosion. He actually said that he's trying to get to the bottom of that because, as Jason told us on the ground, yes, he smells gas, but they're not sure exactly where that gas is emitting from and if it was a part of the explosion here. Just really quickly, the injuries in this case, one crucial or critical, I should say, 2 serious. We heard 9 ambulance transports to local hospitals, and a family assistance center has been set up at Lot 15 at Sundance Square parking lot, which is 205th Street. When you consider the magnitude of this explosion, we are so thankful that those critical injuries and serious injuries are not higher.
And we're hoping that that number doesn't get any higher.
Absolutely.
And that nothing changes here. Interesting thing to point out, though, Nicole, when that call came out at 3:32, initially it was out as a structure fire call.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of what the concern was at the moment. Shortly after that, that's when the explosion was reported. So it makes me wonder if there was something that happened before. Obviously, all of that is going to be determined in the investigation, but it does give you an idea of the kind of information that rescue workers and that fire crews were given when they were dispatched to this. That initially it was a structure fire call, then quickly it became an explosion call.
And just look at all
and now
that
we
debris.
see we see what happened.
Look at all that debris. We heard in the 4 o'clock hour, Jeff Ray signifying that this could have been an underground blast. And to that point, we heard from some Twitter traffic, I should say, that a rescue group from Fort Worth PD, they went in, they got the all clear, and they did that from the basement because they wanted to cut the gas to the building and make sure that there was no other threat in that particular regard.
We know that there's one person we just heard from that briefing that is still unaccounted for.
Correct.
But we don't know yet if that person, if they have found that person, they just haven't relayed that information over to authorities and to officials. Certainly hoping that that is the case, but as of last check, there is one person that is unaccounted for. Right now, let's get back out to Jason Allen following this briefing, following the information that we know, and let's check in with Jason. He is live for us there on the ground. Jason, I understand that you were asked to sort of fall back a little bit because of the concern of the gas leak still taking place down there. Set the scene for us now from where you are. What do we know? What are you seeing?
Ken, we're just about a block away from where that blast happened, about 3:30 this afternoon, just back here on this other corner. You're right, about 15 minutes ago, police started talking about moving us further back, about a block away. In the end, they just had us come across the street, so no expanding of the perimeter yet. But there is still a little bit of smell of gas in the air at times when the wind blows in the right direction. So that speaks to one of the concerns of the firefighters who were down here, that there may still be some gas leaking at the site. Again, they don't know if that's initially what caused the explosion or if that gas leaks are as a result of the explosion. Down here on the scene, they have moved in some heavy equipment here in the last 15 minutes or so, and there are a number of police officers that are now moved out to these corners. I think some of these people were up closer to the scene over the last hour. Now they've moved back around the perimeter as well. We heard the firefighters talk about still going throughout this building. This is a 100-year-old structure with a lot of rooms all the way up, and we know people were in the upper floors. We also know from talking to someone who was on the second floor of this building when the explosion happened that some of the exits out of the building have been impacted. Some stairwells that have been blown apart. One man told us that he had to jump 5 or 6 feet because the stairwell was gone in order for him to get out of the building. The good news when you look at that damage, and as you guys said, when you see how much is down there, that there were 11 injuries and only 9 of those people had to be transported. We know that one critical and a couple of serious. Again, what we don't know yet from first responders who were here is if those were all people who were inside the building. They could have also, in a busy part of downtown, been just walking by or driving by at the time that the explosion happened. Ken and Nicole?
Such a good point, Jason. And as we talk about the debris scatter, as we talk about how large this scene is to start cleanup at some point, we got to think about the weather. You know, we are under or about to be under a wind advisory for tomorrow. That could complicate how investigators look into the cause of this. It could complicate how to start getting cleaned up. This thing takes a while. I've seen gas explosions before. Thankfully, it wasn't, this one wasn't as bad, but it is a magnitude. It is a large magnitude cleanup. It's an investigation.
Right,
it takes a lot. That's why you heard the fire officials there saying, listen, you see people here with HSI jackets on, gang units on. It's because it's all hands on deck. And so, Jason, I'm not sure if you're starting to see any of those agencies kind of convene together to talk about what is next. I don't know if you're seeing any people coming out, but I know for sure this is going to be an extensive operation to start getting things cleaned up and figured out.
Oh, for sure, Nicole. And we're seeing all kinds of agencies here. I mean, you probably heard in that press conference there was a question about different departments from the police department. There's a gang unit that is down here, and there are police liaisons here, and just about everybody who could be called in is. We have not seen, I know that Atmos is here on scene. I haven't seen many of those folks who are here milling around. In fact, it seems, again, like in the last 15 or 20 minutes, that a lot of people have just kind of been moved out here to the perimeter. And in fact, everybody really right now is staying a good, I would say, block or so away, at the very least across the street from the actual scene of the explosion. I remember when we were covering this live over the first hour or so, in that 4 o'clock hour, you could see people who were going in and out of the building, especially firefighters, and we know that they're trying to still clear some of those floors, but it does look like I'm getting the sense that just about everybody has been moved back further away. And as I say that, again, we're getting that other whiff or smell of gas in the air. So as the wind kind of still blows here through downtown, it's very clear there is still a gas leak at the scene. I imagine that's probably the first thing that they're most concerned about, is getting that turned off and cleared out before they can start really probably safely moving any of that debris or clearing things out to open up downtown again.
That's right. We're glad that they were able to cut the source of that gas and get the basement all clear, just to make sure no one else was trapped inside and no other possible injuries. Jason, hang out here just for a second. I want to check in. Yeah, we'll check back in with you in just a moment. We've got tag board here, Ken, showing us some tweets from official agencies about the update on this investigation.
And this is important to point out because they actually authorities gave an actual address for that reunification center for families. So again, 205th Street, that is a parking lot. It is lot 15 right next to Sundance Square for anybody who is looking to reunite with loved ones, get any additional information in the area. Again, these are all efforts, Nicole, to keep people outside of this area. Folks are being advised to just stay away as much as possible. So again, both Fort Worth Police and Fort Worth Fire advising people 205th Street. That is the spot to go. That is lot 15, right next to Sundance Square for any kind of family reunifications that are taking place.
And right now, I mean, as we talk about how to help our rescue crews, make the progress they need through this investigation and cleanup, they're asking people obviously to avoid the area. If you know someone that works down there or maybe someone that was headed that way, call them, tell them it's a no-go. And we just want to let you know from that press conference, in case you're just now joining us, the gas leak or the gas factor in this investigation is not something that they've completely cleared up yet. Yeah. It hasn't been clear to them if that is what caused the explosion or if that is simply a side effect of whatever happened here. We do know that one person is critical, 2 people are seriously injured, and we've got 9 other people with minor injuries that had to be taken to local hospitals in the last hour and a half.
The officials that we heard from in the briefing, they were very clear to address, some of the social media concerns that are going on. Because we're reading them as well, just so you know.
Yeah.
We have eyes on a lot of the things that are being said out there, and it's important to be able to sift, especially in the early hours of a traumatic event like this, to sift out what is fact, what is fiction, what still has not been confirmed. So we want to let you folks know, again, the information that we're giving you is information that has been confirmed. It's information that we stand by, and it's information that came straight from the authorities and the officials out there. I say this because initially, there was a lot of talk about an explosion, where it would have come from, types of gases and all that kind of stuff.
And then again, you think about the president being in town.
A little later
people were concerned about that.
So we get that, okay? We're reading the information, we get that, but it's our job to let you know that what we know right now is that this is more than likely some sort of a gas leak explosion rather than a gas explosion. Those are 2 completely different things.
Absolutely.
And fire officials also made the declaration.
And not unstandard in cases like this. We just heard from our producer that the ATF is on the scene as well. Not surprising. That's part of the process here. That's part of their job as well, to vet the origin of whatever this was.
If you're familiar with the area where we're talking about, a lot of the federal offices, including offices for federal agencies, are housed down there.
Correct.
So these folks probably heard the explosion themselves. I can only imagine in the coming hours. Again, we're not even 2 hours into this. This is at 3:32 that this went out. We're not even 2 hours into this, but I'm assuming at some point we're going to get maybe surveillance video.
I'm sure.
And we'll get a better idea of exactly how all of this. Just speaking to meteorologist Jeff Ray, though, he said thankfully it was a bad weather day.
That's right.
And there weren't more people out there walking around. So
let's get to Caroline Vandergriff. Caroline, we know you're at Sundance Square. That is where the police and fire have set up the Family Assistance Center and kind of the reunification center. Have you seen anyone there reuniting with family, friends, or asking questions about what is next here?
Hey guys, so we've been walking around this area trying to figure out exactly where that reunification spot is. I want to make sure to note that 205th Street address will actually take you to a parking garage a couple of blocks that way. That is not the correct staging point. We're at 6th and Throckmorton right there, and the reunification spot is actually in this parking lot back here. You can see several police officers standing in the corner. So it's really at 5th and Throckmorton is where police officers here on scene told us they're doing the reunification. We have not really seen anyone taking advantage of that option or asking those officers or trying to meet in that particular location. Now, what drew us here was there was a crowd standing here at this corner just a few minutes ago, and this was actually employees from the hotel who we asked them a little bit about their experience. No one wanted to talk to us on camera, but several of them worked in the laundry part of the basement of the hotel.
Fue lo inicial. Es por eso que esta es una investigación activa. Aún tenemos bomberos en este edificio haciendo búsqueda y rescate por cualquier otra posible víctima.
One woman told me at one point she got so concerned, she had a really bad feeling that they just shut off all the machines. They left, they went to a supervisor's office higher up in the hotel, and that's when the explosion happened. She said she didn't see anything really. It all kind of happened so fast, it was so loud, and they just escaped through the window and got as far away as they could and just came here several blocks away, and we're just waiting, figuring out what to do next. But again, that's what she told me, is that they were just having strong smells of gas in the air. They reported it and they were waiting for action to be done, and then got so spooked they didn't want to wait around in that basement location, and so that's when they left and went to that higher office. So that's pretty much what we know here at this area are where we are. There's clearly a heavy police presence still. We can't get much closer to where the hotel is and where that happened. But again, that reunification spot at 5th and Throckmorton, if you just do that address that they've been repeating, it takes you a few blocks away. And we walked over there. There isn't anyone over there, so that clearly isn't the right spot from the ground of what at least these officers are telling people and telling us. So we will keep staying here and see what we can find out. Maybe head back that way, check in and see if any of those loved ones are gathering in that location, to see if they can meet up with people, make sure, you know, their family and friends are okay.
Okay. Caroline, thank you very much.
We've also just learned, I think we mentioned it before, but ATF Dallas, is now assisting. Fort Worth, as obviously has their own office. ATF Dallas has come over now across the Metroplex to help as well.
We sort of expected that was going to happen.
Sure.
It's typically how it works, and things like this. You know, all the resources that are available are brought in. You know, it's interesting, and you can see it from the sign there. Hotel now open for the Sandman Hotel. So this is, if you don't know the name, and quite frankly, I didn't recognize the name. This is a relatively new hotel that is open there. Wondering if at this point, you know, just some of the questions that, you know, as journalists that we have a lot of times when we see this, is if there was any kind of work that was going on recently. If this was some sort of an issue related to maybe some refurbishing, to maybe some new construction that was taking place. We do know that the building itself, though, was built in 1920, and there's a lot that we can deduce from that time period when it comes to the building architecture, the way that these buildings were built back then. You know,
Jeff mentioned it could have been steel.
And it is steel. All of them are. And this is one of the things that if you're into this kind of stuff, and I guess I sort of am myself, you marvel at some of the design and some of the architecture, the way that these buildings were built back then. And this area of Fort Worth downtown especially is filled with that kind of construction.
That's right. And that's what you think about when you look again at this extensive debris. Yeah, you see these, you know, it looks like just kind of trash in the street. These are heavy duty items that were tossed and strewn about, which again, to our point earlier, it shows you the force of this explosion. It shows you the force of what happened here. And I'm sure as we go through the course of the investigation, the question about how this got started will indeed go back to how the building was built, refurbished, all of that.
So let's talk a little bit about timeline here so that folks kind of get an idea of where we are in all of this, because the call went out at 3:32. And again, there are tons of questions right now that we ourselves are asking, but we all know we have to be patient in these circumstances and wait for all of this. But we know this came out at 3:32. We know that initially, you know, the search and rescue efforts is what happens first. We know that's where the 11 patients came out from. Again, 1 critical, 2 serious, 9 transported as of last check. We also know that there's 1 person right now that is officially unaccounted for. So
that's right.
Maybe that reunion has already taken place. We just have not gotten word. But as of last check, 1 person is unaccounted for. And then at some point, you know, they're going to have to investigate this and then clean it up.
That's right. And that's the part that you think about. Okay, we've got strong wind coming in. We had a wet morning.
Right.
It's going to complicate the situation for our rescue workers and the people leading this investigation. And it's just, I think, you know, probably has a little people concerned about what the level of the gas leak played, what level role that played in this explosion, because you're looking at the scene there, and while it may seem contained from your TV screen, I can guarantee you it's far more extensive than what you can see right now.
And it's just countless, the amount of police officers, the amount of fire officials, the amount of like sort of agencies that are now, this is called a mutual aid response. You know, when you bring in different agencies to try and help with the situation. But this, by the way, this is a live picture from the ground. And again, I mean, this is what it's going to look like if you try and get anywhere near there. Every block, several blocks in every direction, you know, at north, south, east, and west is going to be blocked off. You're not going to be allowed access to it. And again, that's because they're still dealing with an active gas leak.
And on a regular day, you know, around this time, you've got a lot of traffic in what is a smaller downtown radius. So think about that with a heavy police presence that Caroline mentioned. You're getting another look now from the chopper, a bit of a higher bird's eye view of the scene here. Again, a ton of debris looking like it could have come from the bottom up, just bottom, basement, below ground level, straight up.
And you could see it. You could see it right there. Obviously, you know, the caveat here is we're not, you know, explosive investigators or anything, but we know what we're seeing right now. And you can see that hole in the sidewalk.
Gaping hole.
It is massive.
Yeah.
And when you think about what that is on a normal day covered with, you're talking about 10 by 10 slabs of concrete.
4,400 pounds.
pounds each.
It's intense.
And now it's shattered in pieces. You can see directly into the basement, and you know, God knows how deep that hole actually is.
I think we've got an updated look at Tagboard for you guys, just gathering some information that has been on Twitter from Fort Worth Police Department. Right now, we've got a tweet up from Tim O'Hare, Tarrant County Judge. We know him well. He says information is being gathered on this situation as we speak. In an abundance of caution, I've directed our downtown county buildings to close for the day. Obviously, like we said, it's 5:22. That was going to happen anyway. But just to keep any extra folks that may have needed to go back to the office, finish a meeting, whatever the case may be, they have now been able to go home. And hopefully, we're hoping they're safe and out of the way.
This is Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, also getting wind of this. He said, "My state team and I are closely monitoring the developing situation in downtown Fort Worth following the gas explosion at a local hotel. Please avoid the area until authorities deem it safe." Again, that has not been deemed safe.
No,
there is
it is not.
An all clear that has been given. Still very much a dangerous situation. He went on to say, "We are grateful for the first responders who were on the scene of this accident." I think we can all echo that sentiment.
Yeah, because they've got a very, very busy night and days ahead of them. Want to take a break from this major breaking news in downtown Fort Worth and get you an update on your first alert weather. I want to bring in meteorologist Jeff Ray. Jeff, can you walk us through what we are now expecting on the other side of this wind advisory that you've been watching and the rest of the team's been watching today?
Yeah, there's a lot of first responders out. And the winds are going to start up later tonight, and the temperatures are going to drop with those winds. Right now, it's mild out there, 57 degrees. It is breezy out there. It has been a windy day with the storms, but the storms have recently just left. I'll show you that in a second. The reason for the first alert all the way till tomorrow is because of the wind advisory. We're going to have gusts over 45 miles an hour. These winds will be really strong through the overnight hours, so you're going to hear them rattling the windows as you're trying to sleep. This is actually the last 12 hours or so. This is the rain and thunderstorms that came through. Fortunately, no severe thunderstorm warnings, but there were winds 50 plus with the storms themselves. Now, we're still seeing the last of the rain just now leaving Dallas County and still over parts of Kaufman and Hunt County. That is the last of the rain as we start to see that clearing. And then we see the snow that's up in Amarillo and Plainview. That's because the low that's driving this is up in Oklahoma. This is the back side of that low. This is that northwest wind that shows up later tonight and starts dropping the temperature. First alert futurecast we go. This is at 11:30. Temperatures are already down to the low 40s. This would be the coldest temperature of the day so far, and it's going to get much colder because all night long these strong winds will bring these temperatures down to close to freezing, but with the winds at 20 30 miles an hour, you're going to have wind gusts in the teens and low 20s. And by the way, the high tomorrow will probably only be in the upper 40s. So tomorrow's forecast looks like this. The actual temperature probably just above freezing, but that's the number you want to be concerned about. Bundle everybody up as you send them out the door tomorrow morning, because we're going to have feel-like temperatures in the 20s and below freezing most of the morning. And by afternoon, they'll barely get above freezing with those strong winds. And you can see these feel-like temperatures really dropping in the morning and then only getting into the low 40s at best tomorrow afternoon. So it's going to be a really cold day, and it's going to be colder. We were watching this Arctic air. We've been talking about this for the last week, that it does look like some of this breaks out finally for the first time this season. We're talking about below zero temperatures up in the Dakotas and Montana. We get it modified somewhat by the time it gets here, but this will be our coldest air we've had so far this season, and you can see it in overnight lows down in the teens by next Monday. That's Martin Luther King Day. There's a parade that morning, and we're talking about temperatures in the teens along with strong winds. 7-day forecast. We have the alert out, obviously, but you can see temperatures tomorrow only in the 40s. Then we're in the 60s on Wednesday and Thursday before the real cold air arrives. And you can see by Friday we've got that little chance of rain that goes into Friday morning. And then temperatures will be okay sort of across the weekend, but it's really by Monday the real cold air arrives. And guys, it's going to stick around for a while. We're calling for below normal temperatures all of next week.
Arctic blast. Jeff Ray, thank you so much. Let's take you guys back to the scene. This is some social media video we got shortly after the explosion at the Sandman Hotel downtown Fort Worth that happened around 3:32 this afternoon. You can see lots of people are standing out there trying to figure out what's going on. Someone's sitting there on the curb being comforted. Yeah.
Wow.
You see a little bit of smoke or fog or something in the air. We don't know scientifically what happened, but you can see the debris like we told you. What you were seeing on the chopper was one angle.
Yeah.
That debris is not, I promise you, it is not contained to what you can see on your TV. It is larger, it is more extensive, and it's more intense.
This is going to be from several stories up in a nearby building, and you can see sort of, again, what you were talking about, that dust up. Not sure if that's actual smoke or if it's just dust from the debris that blew out. But you can see how far up it has come up. You can see it from that window. But you get the idea that, many people witness this sort of from that vantage point, because, again, at the time of the day, the weather's not great. You're thinking people are either in their office buildings or at a hotel, and this is what they're getting to see.
New
This is one of
video,
the
you just saw one. Yeah, I saw someone there on a stretcher being taken into an ambulance, transported to be treated. And again, we
are praying for them.
Yeah, we are. We're
best.
so thankful that these numbers are what they are right now, because like I said, I have seen large scale gas explosions, gas leaks, and it can be so much worse than what we are seeing right now. Not to say that it's not bad, not to say that this is not a traumatic event. I'm just letting you know that we are grateful and praying for the people involved for sure.
Just imagine if we were having a beautiful sunny day out there, a mild day. I know that this area on a Monday, especially people coming back from the holidays, probably for a lot of them their first day back to work, back to the routine. I'm sure they would have been, out and about.
And think about college students. Think about TCU kids that might have just been out shopping, out grabbing pizza. This is right near Buffalo Bros, which is a popular pizza and wing spot. I mean, you have to think about...
There's so many places to eat around there.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think of that all the time, too.
It could have, the time of day we're thankful for, and we're thankful for it, like Jeff said, not being a sunny day. Okay, breaking news. We've got a all clear officially from Fort Worth.
So we just got that.
We just got that literally in the last 2 seconds.
5:28, almost 2 hours after we have the all clear now.
That is good news, and that is key here, because that means they can start moving forward with their investigation, means no one else is at risk, and it means that they can also start to take a look at the magnitude of cleanup and how they start that process.
One other thing that I do want to mention, we talked about that one person that was unaccounted for earlier. That person has been accounted for.
Amazing.
Thank goodness. They have found that person. That person has been connected now with, I'm assuming it's going to be with relatives, with loved ones. That was a hotel guest there at the Sandman Hotel. But again, everyone accounted for right now. So no one unaccounted. That one person we do know that they're doing okay.
And I just want to really quickly read you a part of a tweet from Mayor Maddie Parker. She says, "My heart and prayers are with those who are injured as we continue managing response." She, of course, says we'll provide more information as available. We want to thank you for sticking with us here for CBS News Texas as we cover this breaking news of a gas leak or gas explosion in downtown Fort Worth at the Sandman Hotel. We'll keep you updated here on air and online at CBS News Texas and again at 7 and 10 o'clock.
Tonight, the breaking news: United finds loose bolts on several of its Boeing 737 MAX 9s. This comes just days after a plane wall blew out mid-flight on the same type of aircraft. We've got the new information just coming in. The terrifying discovery: hundreds of flights are canceled after that scary incident at 16,000 feet.
There was moments of, am I going to make it?
The door panel just found by investigators as we learn about warning lights in the cockpit. Breaking news: a hotel explosion rocks downtown Fort Worth. After a weekend snowstorm, more dangerous weather is sweeping the middle of the country, bringing blizzard warnings and tornado threats. New questions tonight about Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's secret hospitalization, why the public and the president weren't notified. And liftoff and the historic launch, why the first moon lander in over 50 years is in jeopardy.
Space exploration is a very risky business. Hopefully they can not just get it to the moon, but actually land it on the surface.
Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us on this Monday night. We want to begin tonight with a major new development after that terrifying blowout in the sky. We learned just a short time ago about troubling new safety concerns and installation issues on Boeing's 737 MAX 9s.
To a structure fire at the address of 810 Houston Street here in downtown Fort Worth at the Sandman Hotel. When companies started arriving on scene, they switched that call type to multiple calls of an actual explosion that had taken place. At that point in time, we switched gears a little bit from looking at it from a fire standpoint and how many, life safety is our number one. That's our priority anytime we roll up on a scene like this. So we did have to switch gears a little bit from a fire to an explosion. Now there was live fire that was in the building that has been extinguished since then. And I apologize for this. The wind's kind of got my pages blowing around. It did go to a second alarm, and what that did was allow us to bring in more resources to help with the patient care and stuff that we needed. The fire to make sure that we were doing a search of the entire building and to put the fire out. We did have the ambulance, which comes and they can take multiple people to the hospital at one time. We had our MCI, our mass casualty trailer that came that offers a lot more resources and equipment for us to be able to do our jobs. The calls came in. We had initial calls that people were trapped in the basement. We did extract several people from the basement that weren't able to get out on their own at that point in time. We have since then started doing our secondary all clear. We have found another patient that was in the building. Now, earlier when I talked to you guys, I said that there was one person that was not accounted for. That person was found, but since then we have found that we had another patient that was trapped there in the building. Again, Arlington has cooperated with us as they always do and staged some of their apparatus here to help us with our call volume. And we do have that Family Assistance Center that's located at Lot 15 at Sundance Square parking lot, 200 5th Street. So what that Family Assistance Center does is it goes back, if you're looking for loved ones, if I know we're having an issue right now because of the amount of people that are down here with cell phone service, if you have a loved one that you cannot get in touch with, you can go to the location at Lot 15 at the Sundance Square parking lot, 200 5th Street, and we've got resources that are there to help you come in contact with your loved ones if you have not been able to make contact with them since this incident started. This is still a very active scene. Based on our characteristics of the explosion at this time, we have been working in collaboration with the ATF, the FBI, with our arson and bomb division as well. And so, again, we have not made 100% determination, but we wanted to make it clear that this was some type of gas explosion. And we're still working on the details of that to figure out what all caused that at this point in time. The hotel was operational. We do know that there was some reconstruction and stuff that was going on. There were 26 rooms that were occupied. So like I said, we did get, people were either checked into the rooms and had gotten out on their own, or we did go in there and do some rescues on some patients, to make sure that we could get them to the proper immediate emergency care. The patient count as we speak is 20. At this point in time, we do not have any casualties. We don't have any deceased that we're aware of at this time after all the search and stuff that we've done. So I want to bring an emphasis to that. I can open it up from questions at this time.
Sir, do you think that the reconstruction might have had, can you explain a little bit about what that work was and if it might have had anything to do with the explosion?
Well, so the question is, as far as the reconstruction goes, is that what may have caused the event that happened today? I don't know the details on the reconstruction itself. I don't know if it was, the hotel was operational, and so I guess basically I can't answer that question specifically for you.
So the number of injured has gone from 11, our last update, to now at least 20.
We've got 20 total. There were 19 that were treated here on scene and or transported to local hospitals, and we do have one patient that has walked into the hospital on their own from here on scene to get treatment at the hospital.
Still only one critical.
I'll let Matt Zvasky with MedStar talk about that.
So the total patient count from this particular incident currently remains at 20. 19 of them were treated on the scene. Of those 19, 1 was in critical condition, 4 were in serious condition, but so far 14 patients have been transported to local hospitals.
14.
1 patient did actually self-transport to JPS with minor injuries. So a total of 21 patients total injured from this event so far that we know of.
Were these people who were in the building? Were they walking the sidewalk? Were they driving? Do you have any idea on where people were when they were injured?
We don't know where they were when they were injured. They could have been outside, they could have been inside. So we're not sure.
You said you were able to find the person missing, right?
I'm going to let Craig answer that, but yes.
And Matt, for you, the 14 that were taken, does that include the person who walked in, or is it 15?
No, it'd be 15. We transported 14 to the hospital using 12 ambulances and our ambulance. All of them. Yes, we triage them and we rotate them to make sure that no one hospital is going to be inundated with patients.
We saw a woman being treated outside of the hotel. Is that the patient that was missing or the person that was missing?
Don't know.
Someone was found when you did the second sweep. You mentioned that.
Yes, ma'am. So when we do our preliminary search, it's a real get in quick. At that point in time, we weren't really sure. You know, they were talking about the stability and stuff of the structure itself. So when we do our primary search, it's a real get in there fast, as quick as you can, kind of room by room type thing, just like we do in house fires and other incident hazardous materials if we're going into a structure. Then once we kind of get a little bit of a headway on the incident, it allows us to go back in a second time and take a little bit more time to do a more detailed and thorough search, just to make sure we can go room by room, looking through all the different places. You know, at some instances, like on this one, there was some smoke that was involved. So that secondary happens after everything's kind of cleared out a little bit, and we've got a better visual standpoint to go in and really feel that we've done a lot better of a job outside of, you know, the second time.
So just I'm clear here. Is it 20 or 21 patients?
It was 20 total. 19 were from here on scene. No, I'm sorry. So
this is a very fluid situation. We're getting updates as we go. So there were 21 patients total that reported injuries from this particular incident. We all treated 20 on scene. 1 left the scene, went to JPS on their own. Does that help?
I'm glad we got you the right answer to that question.
Can you tell us more information about those who are trying to find their loved ones? Can you give that address?
So that address, we call it the Family Assistance Center. Sometimes it's known as the Reunification Center, just to be clear with all the different terminologies and stuff that goes on. That is actually at, like I said, it's at parking lot 15. At the Sundance Square parking lot. The address is 200 5th Street. 200 5th Street. So again, like I said, if you've got loved ones or family members that you have not been able to come in contact with since this incident happened, you can go down to that location and they will be able to help you get in touch with those family members. Like I said, I do know we have, just from the amount of people that are down here right now, we have been having some cell phone issues, not being able to get out or in and things of that nature. So all I can say on that is I do know Atmos is on scene. The fire department is not over gas inspections and things like that, so you would have to contact Atmos to get that information.
Greg, were there any issues with access as you guys were trying to clear the building? I understand from talking to one of the people who was inside that stairwells have been destroyed. I mean, so that made it difficult to exit. How about for you guys just getting in to be able to clear things?
Yeah, so I know some of the places when they were making their way down into, you know, like I said, we had reports of people that were trapped down in the basement, and because of the explosion that took place, some of those access areas were either covered up or didn't feel safe at that point for people to get down into those areas to make sure that we were able to get everybody out. So that did play into the tactical standpoint of this operation. It was just safety for our people to make sure we could go down there and safely bring out whoever that we could find without causing more of an issue than what we already had.
Is there a chance residents who have cars inside the evacuation zone may not be able to leave tonight?
I'll let PD talk about that.
I don't know what the question was.
Is there a chance residents with vehicles inside the evacuation zone will be able to be inside?
The plan right now, as far as the perimeter that's been set up, is after we talk with some of the experts that are reviewing the structural integrity of the building, if we're able to collapse the perimeter somewhat to open up some more areas, that would give people access to vehicles and the businesses in the area. Obviously, we won't be doing that until it is safe to do so, but the last thing we want to do is inconvenience anyone who needs a vehicle to get home. So we'll work with everyone we can to make sure we allow access to areas as it's safe so they can access their vehicles as quickly as possible. Yes, sir.
Make it, Chief.
Been able to determine anything about the structural integrity of the building?
We do have property management on scene, and they are looking into that as we speak. We're still, like I said, trying to make sure and clear the building to make sure that we've got everybody out at this point in time. So I'm not even sure yet if they've been able to get in until we've kind of went in and did everything that we needed to do from a life safety standpoint to make sure everybody has gotten out. I would not say as of yet. Like I said, we have had the primary search, but we're still going through right now, going room to room to make sure we do the secondary search, just so we can say without a doubt that we have gotten everybody out and there's nobody else left inside.
Any question?
The building's 104 years old, kind of a historic structure here. What does it mean to see this kind of event happen?
Well, you don't skip to that first. You want to make sure. You want to make sure people are safe. Really special thanks to our first responders, other jurisdictions that have stepped in to help our Fort Worth Fire Department and Police Department to get to this place. But of course, it's a beautiful building that was just recently renovated and opened, and so we'll work with the ownership of that building as quickly as possible, as soon as it's structurally sound enough to do so. But it's heartbreaking for downtown Fort Worth, of course, and at this point, well, our hearts and prayers are with the victims at area hospitals. So.
Were you here at City Hall when they exploded?
Yeah, I was actually at our new building, at the new Pier 1 building. So, but this building was pretty quickly evacuated, as was the federal building and others in the surrounding area.
Did you hear it?
I did not hear it, but our staff that was here at City Hall definitely did. Most of them kind of described it as an earthquake sound. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, again, thanks for everybody coming out. We'll probably, I would say before the 10 o'clock hour, we'll be back seeing everybody again.
Hey, Craig, can you describe the scene when you guys were when you first rolled up? Can you describe what they're not seeing? You can't see it down the street.
Yeah, so when you pull up on the scene, I mean, it's there's a lot of destruction and stuff that's going on, not only when you're looking at the building itself, that you can tell that there's been some windows, it looks like maybe some walls and stuff that have been blown out, covers from whether it be gas or water that are inside the streets, the covers were blown off from the street side. So I mean, when you're looking, like I said, there was a small fire I know that they had to extinguish throughout that event. So I mean, it was chaos there for a minute when you show up and you're trying to figure out, okay, how many people are we talking about? What all resources and stuff do we need to make sure that we can, keep this as small as possible, but make sure we're on our end we're keeping the resources and everything coming in to make sure that we have them there on site instead of calling for them later, and you've got to wait, especially with as congested as downtown got with all the emergency vehicles, to make sure that we had those resources that were there on scene.
So you've just been listening to a live update. We heard from Fort Worth Fire PIO. We heard from Mayor Maddie Parker of Fort Worth. We heard from Chief Neil Noakes from the Fort Worth Police Department about an update on today's explosion. And I think the big takeaway from today, yes, and MedStar. And to that point, Ken, last time we were on air talking about this together, it was 11 total people injured. Now it is 21.
And what's important to point out here is that one of those victims walked himself or herself into the hospital.
Correct.
So again, that's where that 21 number comes from. We were hoping that number wouldn't go up, but it has. But we are being told that none of them have resulted in a fatality.
And the restaurant inside the Sandman Hotel, Mezume, 3 employees, according to the statement that we got from the co-founder of the restaurant, were injured today. But He says they are being treated in the hospital and they are stable. We will send updates and be more transparent as we get information. Okay. We will stay on this developing breaking news story for you here on CBS News Texas on air and online. We'll see you guys back here at 7.
2000? To link the Yangtze and Yellow Rivers, this was rebuilt during the Sui dynasty.
that. ATV to RTB. Thank you. ATV here. Yes, the other two have released us. We will need to RTB soon for fuel and presidential TFR. So, desk ATV. Copy that. Thank you. Oh my gosh. This has been in the... Yeah, I know. Stop. Pain in the... So how much fuel do we have left? ATV here. It's all over DFW. Okay. Sorry, I missed that. A what shot? Oh my. Thank you. Desk, Sky 4. I just wanted to ask before we left if we're clear from the live picture. Give it a second. I don't want to leave in the middle of the shot. Right now. Okay. Are we clear for everything? Copy that. Thank you. Right. Desk, chopper 11. Copy that. Thank you. Desk, ATV. Wanted to make sure I was clear of any live shots before we left. He'll get back to us. Yeah, they've only held us over 3 minutes so far. Oh, 2 minutes. 5, 6, 7, 8. ATV here. Copy that. ATV's RTB. Thank you. ATV here. Yes, the other two have released us. We will need to RTB soon for fuel and presidential TFR. Copy that. Thank you. Oh my gosh. This has been in the... Yeah, I know. Stop. Pain in the... So how much fuel do we have left? ATV here. It's all over DFW. Okay. Sorry, I missed that. A what shot? Holy fuck.
who has been awaiting the president's arrival all day long. I want to get out to Jack and touch base with him to find out what he's seeing and what he's hearing right now at this hour. Jack?
Hey there, Nicole. Air Force One, as you said, just landed here at Dallas Love Field about 45 minutes late. The president, for those people who care about what kind of aircraft he's on today, it's the 757, not the 747 that most people are accustomed to seeing. That's going to be taxiing over here very shortly. We're actually going to be pretty close to where the president is when he gets off the plane, where they're going to park the plane here on the tarmac. There are no official greeters for this trip. The service, the prayer service that the president has come to town for, has already started. So once he gets off the plane, he's going to be escorted by Dallas police down to Concord Church right away to get there to take part in this ceremony. And you know, one of the things that you have to consider, the president decided to come to Dallas because of his special relationship with the former Congresswoman Bernice Johnson, EBJ as she was known. He worked with her for several decades. And so he felt it was important to come here to pay his respects to her. And, you know, I had some photos I want to show as we're waiting for the plane to taxi here. The former Congresswoman was one of the first elected officials in our area, one of the first Democrats to endorse Joe Biden for president back in July of 2019. And these photos are when he actually, months later, back in March of 2020, when he came to Dallas the night before the Super Tuesday primary. She, of course, was on stage there waiting for him. And so you have that as part of their history. The other part of their history is that she most recently helped him pass the infrastructure bill in 2022 and then the CHIPS and Science Act in 2022. And so he worked closely with her on that, was very appreciative of her efforts to help pass that legislation. And when she first got into Congress, which was way back in 1993, she helped pass the crime bill, which then Senator Joe Biden was really pushing for. She supported that. And so this is among the reasons why he feels so strongly about coming here. I hear the plane coming closer. You can maybe be able to see the light coming here. So it'll be interesting to see if any dignitaries are on the plane with him. I don't believe so. I checked with all members of Congress, the Democrats here. They're all at that church service waiting for him. Normally on these trips, there are dignitaries here to welcome the president. But in this case, because they're all down at that ceremony that he's attending, they will not be here. Nicole?
I was going to say, Jack, you know, we heard from the White House on Friday that the president would be attending today's prayer service. We also heard from Bernice Johnson's sorority, which Vice President Kamala Harris is a part of. So although she is not here tonight, just a little backstory for people who may not know, when you enter into these Black Greek organizations, it is a lifetime commitment, and you are connected to your sisters across industries and bounds. That is not limited to events. It is really about service, and that is who Bernice Johnson was. EBJ was a public servant, and so you'll see in the coming days community events and groups coming together to support her sisters, and including myself, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority members, her Lynx sisters, her Jack and Jill sisters. And those were some of the sentiments that we heard from Vice President Kamala Harris on Friday when we heard that President Biden would be in attendance. So although she may not be here physically, I can tell you as a member of the sisterhood, she is absolutely standing in the power of EBJ and passing along that legacy too. Jack, I know we can kind of see the plane getting settled and situated here as well. We're going to watch for President Biden, obviously, to deplane. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about public service. And, you know, one of the things that President Biden said in his statement was her commitment, Congresswoman Johnson's commitment to serving her constituents. And I spoke with her after she announced that she was retiring in November of 2021. I spoke with her again in November 2022, a month before she officially left Congress and before she retired. And this was very much on her mind. And, you know, she really did a lot of homework for her constituents to know the issues, to work on those issues in Washington, and to really help the community here in North Texas.
It's so true, Jack. I mean, the very first event that I emceed in this community as a North Texan was an Alpha Kappa Alpha event for Juneteenth, where I met Miss Opal Lee. I met Eddie Bernice Johnson, and I looked at her and I said, you have no idea what you mean to so many people. I mean, you've heard it over the years, Jack, I'm sure. She's been called a trailblazer, an icon, a mentor. And I think those are the sentiments that people are really holding on to tonight. You know, we see here, well, Union Station. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, she was a first on so many different levels when you go back and look at it. She was the first African-American woman to serve, to be elected in Dallas.
She was, and the first registered nurse to be elected to Congress.
Right. Well, not only that, but even before that, the Texas House and the Texas Senate.
Right.
And she was also the first. She was also the first African-American woman to be chair of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, on which she served until the end. And that's why, you know, we've seen video where she has, you know, received an official portrait a month before she retired in Washington.
That's right.
Because not every member of Congress gets that, but when you're a committee chair, you do. And so that's why she got it. And, you know, I was asking her, it was very interesting, why is it, you know, she served on the same committees for decades, science and transportation. And she told me that, you know, they were really not her first choice committee assignments, but once she was on them, she stuck to it. And the reason for that, she says, she noticed that the most successful members of Congress were on the same committees for decades. And so she decided to stay on that. She was very intrigued by space because of former President Lyndon Baines Johnson from Texas, and she's very much into NASA. And then on the transportation level, she was very interested in that as well. And two things on that front stick out in my mind. One was the fact that she helped lift the flight restrictions known as the Wright Amendment here at Dallas Love Field. And she also helped fight for $700 million in federal funding for DART to expand to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. And then, you know, you've seen the video of the Union Station in downtown Dallas, where she had the name, you know, they basically renamed it the Eddie Bernice Johnson Union Station in downtown Dallas.
Right.
That was because of all she did to help for transportation. And then on science, you know, she really pushed the science education. You can see the presidential motorcade coming in now, waiting for the president to come down the staircase here on this Boeing 757 here at Dallas Love Field. Again, like I said, no time for official greeters here. They're going to whisk him right down there to get to Concord Church in Dallas.
That's right, because the service, the prayer vigil started at 6:30. It is now 7:10. We understand the president had a bit of a delay on Air Force One. So to that point, Jack, he's going to be moving very swiftly. I imagine he's going to do a little wave at the top here and hop right on into the motorcade to get down to Concord Church. Again, that prayer is going to last until 8 o'clock. It is something we are watching for you as well. We have a crew outside of that prayer vigil as well. And Jack, you know, notably, this is President Biden's first trip to Dallas proper since being elected. And I think a lot of people have taken note to that, to be here for such an iconic farewell to someone who really served North Texas for decades and through many different avenues.
Yes, I mean, I think some people even said to me that they were surprised that this is President Biden's first official trip to Dallas. Of course, he was here back in Fort Worth back in March. On March 8th of 2022, he was talking about improving care for veterans. He had met with groups of veterans who were there, some obviously Democratic and even some Republican dignitaries were there to greet him and to listen to his remarks. And then, of course, he was in Dallas as a candidate. I mentioned before that he was here. It was Super Tuesday, the night before Super Tuesday, nearly 4 years ago. And what happened was a whole bunch of other Democratic presidential candidates had suspended their campaigns and had endorsed Joe Biden. And so they came to Dallas to show their support for Biden, who was coming here to hold a campaign rally. And it was really a big night for him, obviously, a big night for the Democratic Party. And then I went back, because I remember him as vice president. He came here to Dallas as well back in November of 2015. And he was here to talk about infrastructure, obviously something he still talked about as president. He was also talking about high-speed rail. And so that was more than 8 years ago already. So yes, this is his first official trip, I suspect, because we've got Super Tuesday coming up. Here he is. There's the president.
Here we have him.
Coming down the steps now of Air Force One. Thankfully, the weather cleared today.
Absolutely.
It was raining here. Yep, there he just waved now. It was raining here off and on throughout the afternoon. And then at about 5:20 or so, or maybe a little before that, the sun came out and it cleared. So it's not too chilly out here. The president waved, and now he's getting into the presidential limo, and he will be heading down to the Concord Church in South Dallas to pay his respects to Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson and really honor her, pay his respects to her son, Kirk, and other family members and other local dignitaries who are there, members of Congress who are there to pay their respects too. She was really a very inspirational figure to a lot of people who ran for office. So, you know, they want to pay their respects.
And I think to that point, Jack, I mean, look at the relationship that she has now with Jasmine Crockett, Representative Jasmine Crockett, who took over that seat for her. That was not just about, you know, pinpointing her predecessor or her successor, I should say, but it was about, I think, from someone who met her, mentorship. I think she was so careful about how she poured into her communities and how she connected with people, and that is why she had such support from those around her, because I think they saw her as kind of a people's champion, as a woman who's going to show up. And like you said, even though she wasn't thrilled about the committee she was assigned to, she stuck with it and she got work done doing that. And I think that is the Congresswoman, that is the woman, that is the icon that people here, you know, are remembering, and it says a lot about the magnitude and scope of her work and impact to have the president here for the first time officially in Dallas to pay respect to her.
Well, you know, you mentioned Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and you know, I remember we spoke to Congresswoman Johnson right before, and here the motorcade is leading right now.
Yeah,
and
we
so
see him pulling off.
See him pulling out, and obviously they will travel south to get to the church, and obviously we will see them once they come back here to the airport. But as you are watching them leave, you know, you brought up Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and I spoke with Congresswoman Johnson the day before Jasmine Crockett announced that she was going to be running for this seat, and Congresswoman Johnson really told me that she really spent a lot of time really trying to figure out who the best person would be for taking her seat. She wanted a woman. She was very clear about that. She said we have enough men who represent the area, so she felt very strongly about that, and she wanted someone who was going to do the work just as she did in Congress, somebody who was going to work hard. And you know, the other thing that really stuck out in my mind about Congresswoman Johnson is, especially in these hyper-partisan times, she was not somebody who was a bomb thrower. You know what I'm saying? She was not somebody who would get on the cable news channels and trash Republicans. She didn't agree with them, that's for sure, on their policies or their beliefs. But she told me she really wanted to work with them, get to know them, and so that she could work with them on various projects to help not only her constituents, but their constituents as well. She told me that, you know, she loved Texas. She didn't always like the policies that the state had, but she loved her state, and she wanted to do, basically, she really wanted to do what was best for the state. She said she worked with, obviously, Republican officials in Congress, and this was despite whether Republicans were in the majority or whether Democrats were in the majority. She said it didn't matter to her. She was going to work with anybody to get stuff done for her constituents. And so that really stuck with me during the interview that we had 2 years ago.
Yeah, Jack, I think it says a lot about any leader that is willing to put the mission over the muck of politics. And I know you know all about that. So definitely a woman to be remembered and respected. We appreciate you taking us live into the president's landing there at Dallas Love Field. Jack, I'll check with you in just a little bit. But right now, I want to take you all to the prayer service for former Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. We've got our Amelia McGavero outside. Amelia, I imagine the tone there has been a quiet, respectful one, but also one of great power and respect for EBJ. Tell us what you've been seeing and who you've been talking to.
Yeah, Nicole, you kind of hit the nail on the head. So much respect here. I mean, I have been seeing a steady stream of people coming in and out of Concord Church here in the South Dallas Oak Cliff area. And it just goes to show how many people loved Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. And ahead of this wake tonight, a lot of notable people coming in through this church. We saw Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins come in, and also former Dallas Police Chief David Brown come into the service. And then, Nicole, you mentioned earlier that Eddie Bernice Johnson was a sorority sister, and we've seen a ton of sorority sisters, friends, work colleagues, just everybody coming here to Concord Church just to pay their respects and just painting a picture of how beloved she truly is. Now, I do want to let you know about the traffic situation, because there's going to be a lot of traffic regulation, especially ahead of the President of the United States arriving here in Concord Church. So I did speak to Secret Service and the Dallas police presence that it's here. And they're telling me that Pastor Bailey Road, which is just outside the church, will be shut down. They started those closures here around 4, but it's definitely going to be shut down ahead of the president arriving. Also, all the side roads will also be closed. No way on or off of Pastor Bailey. So everybody who is here needs to stay here until the president leaves. And this is, of course, all to regulate traffic ahead of the president's arrival. Now, I will note, going back to the tone of this wake service.